true wealth is you're able to make decisions differently for your life when it's not having to be rooted in the cost. It's not rooted in the financial limitation. And there's something about obsessing over money that happens when you don't have it and not having to obsess over that anymore and being able to put all that passion and energy into life, into people, into alignment with who you are here to be and the impact you're meant to make in this world. It feels like complete freedom to be who I am, show up, build an incredible life, pour into others, because I'm able to forget myself a little more. Not forget self-care, but I'm able to forget myself so that I can show up and just be that connector.
I'm Elysia Skye, and this is the Brilliance Method podcast. Through mindful, motivational, and often hilarious conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives, you'll discover new ways to create your life on purpose. Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Brilliance Method. Today, we are hanging out with the amazing Kirsten Tyrrell, who's an emotional intelligence coach and content creator for Millionaire University. After building and losing a 7-figure business, she discovered that strategy without emotional intelligence is like building a mansion on quicksand. I love that metaphor. We're going to talk all about that. Now she guides ambitious women through what she calls the 7 summits of emotional intelligence, helping them create sustainable success through emotional intelligence and intentional identity work. As a representative of Millionaire University, she helps entrepreneurs graduate rich, not broke, by teaching them how to build businesses with strong emotional foundations. Amazing. Thank you for what you do, Kirsten, and for being here today.
Of course. Thank you. I'm so excited. I love everything about, I feel like I step into people's rooms. I'm in your house for a minute and I love the background. I love the vibe. So excited. It's always fun to be on this side of the conversation after, being where you're sitting for a few hours today.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to come and be on your show. So hopefully these will air around the same time. So everyone who's watching or listening to one or the other will find the other episode to get both sides of the spectrum.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, honey. Well, I told you we're gonna pull a card. So I'm shuffling some cards right now. So just go ahead and set an intention. And for everyone who is watching or listening, go ahead and set an intention for you as well. Kirsten and I talked a little bit offline about her intention. So I'm not going to ask her to share it out loud, just as I wouldn't necessarily hear my guests, my audiences, all of your intentions, though I do mediumship work, and that would be very loud to hear thousands of people say, here's my intention. Let's just tune into it from a collective conscious perspective, focusing on Kirsten. And I'm going to pull a card for you, darling, that will also help and inspire everyone listening. Okay, we're going to pull 2 cards. Yep. Okay, so the first one, okay, cool. And now the second one, I'll talk about this in a second. And the second one, I want you to tell me when. So Kirsten, use your intuition, tune in, and just say, now.
Now.
That's crazy. Okay. So here's the 2. First one, Sisterhood of the Rose. Right. So beauty and devotion, priestess, mystic, teacher. So what does this mean? Obviously, in connection to your work. And we didn't talk about the divine feminine, but there's so much that you do and that you help women do from a transformation perspective. So as far as the next move, the next expansion, the next big thing, there's a spiritual element here for you. Okay. So bringing more of that truth of yourself into your work, and not just for you, like I said, for everyone watching and listening. Where is there a gap in your life connected to your spirituality that you can bring forward, especially connected to the feminine? The majority of my audience is women, so we can look at our divine feminine. Even if you're a guy, we have to have that yin and yang balance within ourselves. So where could we soften up? Where could we be even more gentle with ourselves as we transform? And this Sisterhood of the Road, beauty, devotion, priestess, mystic, teacher, she's surrounded by all these different amazing women like Kuan Yin, and there's this goddess praying here, and just bringing in more of these light workers into your field. even on your group coaching calls, Kirsten, if you don't have guest speakers that come in and do a meditation or something like that, you could start bringing in other experts in, because we don't have to
Yeah.
do it all ourselves.
Right there, what you just ended with is exactly what the like realization aha moment I've had even just this last week. That you would think and we'll talk about my life and my background and my business, but you'd think with this many years doing what I've been doing and all the pivots and everything that would be pretty abundantly clear. But sometimes you just have to hear things 1,000 times and then it finally just clicks. And that's where I'm at, is I'm not doing everything myself anymore. And we're going to let that go, set that down, bring in the right people and create an amazing community. So I love it.
Incredible. So just let that be a confirmation. And the second card that you picked, it's funny, I laughed because the last episode we aired where I pulled a card, this was the same one. So I think everyone needs to hear this. This one is Unbound. Okay. So this is the second time this card has shown up. Now I'm producing and creating my own Oracle deck right now, and I have so many decks, but we decided to pull this deck today and this card, releasing soul patterns, contracts, and past lives.
Hmm.
Okay. So, this feels like this goes back totally to your creativity, which I said I want to talk about today too.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what we do for a living, just as women, we are inherently creative beings. And if you happen to have had or have a creative profession, which you had as a photographer for many years, there's still that part of you that requires that nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is, oh my God, you're gonna have so much fun bringing creativity into your business too, finding ways to
Yeah.
play and like do more creative stuff. I totally see you doing in-person retreats where where we play. I don't know what that is. Are we dancing? Are we painting? Are you handing us all a camera? Are you teaching us how to take photos with our phone? And we get into that divine essence that impacts our business. I don't know. That feels so, so, so fun. And also the soul contracts, obviously these amazing people at Millionaire University who you've joined arms with. These are soul relationships. Like, you guys are all here to lift each other up and expand, and it's awesome what you're doing. So let that keep unfolding in its own magical ways as you each continue to grow and expand in your lives and in your business. So the Unbound doesn't mean you have to let go of any of that. It actually means you're already free. So
Mm.
you're free to keep creating on those larger
I love
scale
it.
as you want.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much. That was fun.
You're welcome. So for everyone listening or watching, let me know what these cards mean to you. And thank you, Kirsten, for just showing up, barely knowing me, and just being vulnerable with everybody, because that truly does create trust with people. You know, my
Yeah.
audience is falling in love with you right now, just seeing your openness and your vulnerability and just hearing who you are, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Great start.
Oh
Super,
my
super
gosh.
good.
Thank you. I already told everybody that you are a photographer, and Justin and Tara of Millionaire University, you were taking photos of them and working with the brand. And you went from doing that to becoming a 7-figure entrepreneur yourself and now a content creator for them. So what was that journey like? How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because before Millionaire University, there was an iteration called 8 Minute Millionaire. And this was my very first podcast that I'd ever listened to. And so we're going back in time to 2015. Yeah, 2015, like summer, early fall of 2015. And they hired me. We were friends. We knew each other from church. And they said, "Hey, you're a photographer, right? Like, could you do something really quick? Like tomorrow, come meet us at the beach." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that. I can fit that in." So I'm like researching corporate headshots of a couple. Like, what is this going to look like? Okay, we're going to the beach. What am I in for? And they tell me when I get there, this is for a podcast. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but back in the day, you used to have to pay per song on iTunes. And I thought podcasting was very much the same, like 99 cents per episode. It wasn't, it was free. Maybe once upon a time you had to pay, but it was free as far as I can remember. And so I was like, wait, I've never even like listened to a podcast. What is that? So I show up to this and they're in like jeans and t-shirts and they are literally hopping up and down. You guys should go Google the original 8 Minute Millionaire cover art because it was such a fun photo. And so I'm like, what the heck do these guys do? And what is a podcast? And so I just kind of got sucked into, I, wanted to go see the work, wanted to see the podcast and its formation now. And so I found their show and I started binging, and they were talking to huge entrepreneurs, for its time. They're even bigger now because it's been longer. But we're talking like Ray Higdon and not Gary Vaynerchuk, but like big names like that were on in the podcasting world, in the content creation space, big leaders. So I'm learning and I'm getting almost like this college education listening to these episodes, and my mind is being blown. And I went from listening to, watching Netflix or whatever we were doing back in 2015 to just binging these and then starting to listen to audiobooks. And it just kind of tickled something in my brain. And my husband at the time was thinking, I've heard about this whole thing with Amazon. You can sell products, they fulfill it. Let's just see if that works. So he's kind of looking into that. I'm helping. And I'm like, I think this podcasting thing sounds cool. I want to start a podcast. So I'm still doing the photography business, but now I'm seeing, I have 3 young kids at home. They're all under 5. And I'm a mom and I have all this creative energy, but I'm also like loving the idea of networking and more relationships. And, you just want more friends when you're talking to little people all day long. You want to talk to adults. And so I thought, okay, this would be really cool. Plus, I'm very much just trading time for money with the photography business, which I loved. That was where I got like my interpersonal connection. We lived in Southern California. Like I mentioned, I did Justin and Tara's on the beach. So I was getting to meet people who'd come on vacation. I would take family pictures. I would take wedding photos. It was so fun. And it fulfilled part of that. And I also recognized this is a really busy season for me. So I would love to find other ways that I can do things from home. So I started learning like you can make money podcasting. You can build up your audience and then you can run ads on this and I could make so much money. So then it was kind of on to like, well, what is my podcast going to be about? Well, I want to connect with other women, super inspired by moms. I'm a mom right now. So I started my own show. And I look back and think this is so wild because I just mentioned 3 kids under 5 living in a little apartment in California. My husband worked in nonprofit. There wasn't a ton of money coming in. We were barely getting there, month by month.
What city?
And in San Clemente.
Got it. I'm from
Yep.
Eagle Rock.
Okay. So yeah, we were living the beach life, but we were very much living like the lower half by the beach life, not the fancy house overlooking the beach, but like the tiny apartment, the subsidized living. And we were kind of at a cap too, where we're thinking, unless we do something ourselves, we're not going to ever move out of this income bracket. Like we're going to stay here for probably ever. And so between all of those things starting, I started my podcast doing 5 episodes a week, started interviewing all of these women. I was so terrified to even start. Like, nobody's going to say yes to this. And I will tell you, nobody knew, very few people knew what a podcast was. I've looked back through old emails since and seen, I'd explain to people how people would listen to it, what an RSS feed was. And I'm reaching out to bloggers, and even Instagram was new at the time. So you don't even have really like air quotes influencers yet. They're still figuring out what the heck influencing is. So I just started reaching out to people I knew, and from there had a referral system. And before I knew it, I had this incredible network. I was doing things that I had never even like set out to do. And the whole notion of I'll build up a big enough audience and download so I can run ads, that's still to this day never happened with that show. Like I had the offers, but what ended up happening was the network was so powerful that I could sell and do anything because I'd built the trust. I had the community where I wasn't selling anything for a year. And then just kind of different opportunities came along with affiliate marketing and direct sales. And I had this incredible leverage point. And so I built this incredible sales team, the 7-figure business that you mentioned in the introduction. And I just want to rewind even before we get to that point, because when I met Justin and Tara, remember the show's 8-Minute Millionaire. So I'm thinking, in my life, I've never even thought it a possibility for me to make $1 million. Like it's everybody says like, oh yeah, well, I'd love $1 million. But it was never something that was like, you could actually do this. And so meeting people who are just a couple years older than me, also have 3 kids living in the same place, you can't help but look and say, what am I missing here? Like they're not doctors, they're not lawyers. There's obviously a different path here. I'm running the beach trail with my kids and I'm seeing a lot of people in the middle of the day and they're running into big mansions. So this isn't just this like grind. You have to be really, really, really successful in the traditional ways to be rich. And so that really I had like a whole paradigm shift where I had a great conversation with Tara. Like I said, I was lucky enough to be friends, didn't know each other super well. We went out for frozen yogurt once. And I remember asking her, like, what is it like to be a millionaire? Like, tell me just like, what does it feel like? What is your life like? I can't even like wrap my mind around that. And I bring this up because this was such a pivotal point where I will never forget this moment. I didn't even understand what I was doing at the time. I do now. But she told me, I can go to a restaurant and I don't have to pick based on like, what's the cheapest option? I'll see what my husband's ordering and then I'll kind of make sure we're staying in an affordable range. I order what I want, what sounds good. And I go shopping and I don't have to just buy clothes based on what's the cheapest or what I can get, within the price range. I buy what I love. And so that I kind of immersed myself in it and I saw it through her eyes and I started realizing, yeah, there's a lot of things that a lot of decisions I make because of money, because of cost. So I want to like sink into this. What would that be like? And it became so real that by the end of the night, when I came home to my little 2-bedroom apartment, I don't know how else to explain other than like it didn't even feel like I was walking into my house because in my mind, in my new reality, I was a millionaire that had a beautiful big home and I had so much money in the bank. So the reality felt like the fantasy or the alternate reality, and it was stepping into that whole role of from that moment on I was a millionaire. You know, like I there was no convincing me otherwise. That's who I was now. And all of my choices when I talk about changing my habits and listening to things and learning and just absorbing, I became their poster child. And they said, you know, a little while after they had me on their show. So I went from being like a listener to a guest and now a host. And they said, like, I've never seen anybody take such massive action. Like, you didn't just learn the information, you like ran with it. And you know, I was trying everything and I was doing all the things. And so that's kind of the key, and what I am saying now that I understand even more so after years of doing this is it's all about becoming. It's all about the identity shift more than the strategy. And that is every time I've either had success or failure, it's the result of who I believe that I am. So that's kind of like how we went from photographer. Now here we are years later. They started up the show again. I was listening and I manifested this. I was on a walk and I was like, it would be so fun to have this come full circle and be a creator with this brand. I have so much to teach now. I used to be the student. Now I can be the teacher. And Justin reached out and he was like, what would you feel about being a creator on the show? And we weren't talking regularly. This is like, we've been friends for years, but you know, from a distance. I was like, the weirdest thing I actually was hoping you'd ask. I didn't even have to ask him. So that's where I sit now and I get to interview these incredible entrepreneurs. I'm in the seat getting to have great, beautiful conversations and jive with people like you. So it's cool to see the evolution of that, but it's also not shocking because I did what you have to do, not just the strategy, but the whole shift.
Yes, that's such a powerful story, Kirsten. And, one thing that is really standing out about it is your faith. Like, thank you, God. Thank you, universe. I'm just going to make these wishes and believe in them. I'm going to come home and I'm going to see the palace, not the condo. Right.
Hmm.
And just
Yeah.
shift it from there. Like, believe it, be it. The universe wants us to have exactly what's in our heart. And when we focus on lack and despair and scarcity and jealousy and all that stuff, then we see more of that. That's the experience we have. There's actually the reticular activating system in the brain that brings you more of what you think about and focus on. So let's focus on magic and create more of that.
Yeah, amen to that. Let's do it. I don't It's so funny how we can know that. And I'll point this out to my kids who are much older now. You know, I have teenagers and they'll say like, "Man, I never even noticed there were my sister just bought a Bronco." They're like, "I see Broncos everywhere." I said, "There's your reticular activating system at work." They're like, "I know." They love that their mother is a constant teacher, and we will never stop that because yeah, it's true. And I think it's funny how we can understand that, or maybe we don't even fully understand it. Maybe you're struggling to even believe that still, and it feels sciency or it feels woo woo. But at the same time, if whether or not you believe it, it's happening and it's working for you or against you. So you might as well lean in and say, okay, if it's happening, let's do it on purpose. Let's create this on purpose and let's focus our attention on what we want. Because clearly we're really good at creating what we don't want. We keep bringing and calling that in. So let's just change the narrative. Go create the
Oh,
life we want.
that right there, everybody. If you need to pause and rewind and listen to that again, exactly that, what she just said. That's why the tagline of my show is create your life on purpose. So
Yep.
just that whole it's happening whether you want it or not, like it's happening for you. I
Hmm.
found the photo, I think. Tell me, is this the photo you took?
That's it.
Wow, how cool.
I know. I'm like, who knew? No, that was not on my Pinterest inspiration board that day when I met them on the beach. But there it is.
There it is. Just a simple yes can change our lives, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had an acting teacher say to me once, you always get more when you show up than when you don't show up,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
right? And like you could have skipped church that day. You could have been tired, you got 3 kids running around, but you said, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to be devoted to this practice. And I just had Cindy Yantis on the show and she was talking about how devotion can replace discipline, or you can just have a devotional discipline. And when we think about devotion and we think about prayer, or we think about, journaling or just something that we love to do, like we can have a devotion of I can be devoted to this podcast. You're devoted
Hmm.
to your work. We can shift it and bring some grace and play and joy and love into what we do.
Yeah, 100%. And even to what you were saying, you can still show up to the place and play very small. Like I think back, I've never even thought about this. If I hadn't vocalized what I do and I wasn't confident in my space, even as a photographer at the time, if I didn't tell people, I didn't connect with people, build relationships, I wouldn't have been top of mind. And isn't that crazy to think how different my story would be? It kind of
Mhm.
makes me a little sick. Like, what would it be like had I
Wow.
not made that connection? That was a huge, and Tara would say, you did that though. Like you can't give us the credit. You did that. You showed up. You could have run with it or not. But still, you think about you want to be in alignment with the right opportunities for you. And luck really is, as cliche as it is, like luck really is when opportunity meets preparation. Sometimes that preparation is just like you said, showing up and being in the places that you need to be, even if you don't have the answers. I could have not known that it was going to lead to all of these things, and yet it did because I was showing up for my life, and I love your tagline because it's exactly what I love helping people do. It's a huge, important shift to just being intentional, showing up for every single day on purpose and not just floating down the river of life and wondering where in the heck you're going to end up by the time you die.
Yeah, there's a time and a place to float, and it's usually on vacation
Hmm.
or, on Sundays or Saturdays or whatever your day is. And that belief in what you do, right? To go, "Oh, yeah, I'm a photographer. I can do this." Like,
Hmm.
no big deal. And some people are shy and some people don't have a pitch prepared or words in mind. And it's like, none of that matters. Just talk from your heart. We overthink this idea that we have to have the perfect elevator pitch or mission statement or message statement, or I call mine a beacon statement based on the lighthouse. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just be you
Hmm.
and connect on the heart level. That's what you did.
Yeah. Yep. And and look at me now. Not really. It's been a rocky road, definitely not a linear path to success, but it is such a fun journey. And I think if you shift perspective to that, like what an exciting thing that I don't know what today holds instead of, oh my gosh, I don't know what today holds. Like I don't know if I dare show up for this. So yeah, I think just even that intention behind how you show up for the day is going to open so many more doors. It is going to activate that reticular activating system to look for opportunities for it to be a good day and great connections. And it makes a huge difference. It's so simple and yet has such a profound effect.
Yeah, that I was just reframing my morning practice for my Emerald membership today. And I was like, you know what? I hit the snooze button too many times. Like, I'm just going to own it. And I've given myself so much grace. My husband gives me so much grace, and I don't want that much grace anymore. I just want to get the hell out of bed and start my day. So I'm going to give myself one snooze and get one snooze, and then I'm out, right? We have to take control of our life if we want the life that we dream about.
Yeah, it's so true. Isn't it funny how hard it is? I don't know if you're on TikTok, but I'm on Skinny Talk and I'm on there's a girl, Kylie Perkins, who's talking a lot about is just the tough love. I'm
Uh
like, why
huh.
am I a grown woman that still needs somebody to tell me? And I think I don't know what it is, if we've just been through too much in the last 20 years, but there has been a season where I'm like, I'm an adult. I need to remember I'm an adult and I need to do adult things. I need to show up for my life on purpose and not kind of like wait for somebody to come fix it for me or wait for somebody to tell me what to do. Like I'm sick of my own stuff, right? You probably with your snoozing, you get sick of your own crap, you get sick of your own stories, and you're the only one who can change it with your body, with your mind, with your life, all the things. And I think sometimes we want to pass that off and it can lead to a ton of frustration. It's that choose your hard, right? It can be hard today to wake up or it can be hard later when you have terrible habits and you didn't accomplish the things you wanted and you go to bed feeling like crap. So I think it's really important to remember that we're grown-ups, have grace for ourselves, but also like let's show up. Let's stop rescuing ourselves and giving ourselves excuses to not make our lives awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's such a good point. And I feel like I don't want to speak for everybody, or certainly not for you, but I get into that trap because I'll just be going, going, going. And I take a lot of breaks. I go on vacation a lot, like once a month. And so I like to work hard. I like to play hard.
Mhm.
But because I work hard and play hard, I give myself a lot of leeway when it's not really adding up. Like it's time to put my big girl pants on and get the hell out of bed. And I could actually do so much more in my day. And I have a big mission. And if I have the energy to do it, it's not like I'm sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
like to get up.
What are you doing? Put the phone down.
I know.
I
Like
know.
sometimes
Who are you kidding?
I get so inspired from my dreams because I have really prophetic dreams and really colorful dreams. So like I like to write first thing in the morning. And sometimes I don't want to get out of bed as the cat is squishy and purring and the comforter's warm and the dog is asleep and my
Oh, well,
husband's already
now,
up.
yeah, now I just want to go get in my bed after that visual. That
You
sounds
get it, right?
amazing. Yeah, I get it.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. So, Kirsten, you've experienced both building and losing a seven-figure business. So, let's hear a little bit about that loss. And I don't know if you consider it a fail or a lesson or however you want to language it, but how did that experience transform your approach to success? And can you tell us how you lost the business? Because someone who hears I lost a seven-figure business wants to know how that happened so they avoid doing it, which is not possible, you guys. Like if that's what's on your path, that's what's on your path. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's something that if I could have done it better, here's what I would have done. But if you could have done it better, you would have.
Yeah. Well, and I can't get into a lot of the nuance because it's not just my story to tell, but I can tell you a little bit about like where I was at and a little bit about kind of why it happened. And it's mostly because it wasn't my business. And I don't know about your listeners. I know women come in from a bunch of different standpoints. I mentioned I was in direct sales. So I was really a sales leader. I had a huge team of like 6,000 women. And when it's
Wow.
not your business, it's not your business, right? Like I did all the work to facilitate a great sales team and I was an incredible leader and by the book did a lot of things right, things really, really right. And there's always going to be clashes and there's going to be things that can happen when it's not yours and you've put all your eggs in someone else's basket. And so that's all I'll say about that is when you run into certain clashes that are not resolvable in an overnight instant, that income of making, 7 figures a year was gone.
Wow.
And I think looking back with what I know now, I think that could have been handled differently. I think that I would have shown up differently. I think all parties could have resolved it in a little bit better of a way, but it is what it is. And I think now more the regret is the amount of time it took me to come out of that because and this goes back to what I said in the beginning, the identity factor, right? Like I showed up and I was a millionaire. Remember, like in the beginning, I identified as a millionaire and I created this and I was showing up in my day to day business endeavors, my choices, and I saw myself that way. And then when you physically lose, I think it was much harder to have not had it. And then it's like, yeah, you kind of manifest it into creation by being it and emulating it and bringing it to you. And then it's gone. And it's worse than when I started because ignorance is bliss and you can just kind of ride this gravy train. And then it was like, well, hold on. Now I feel like I'm really successful, but by all counts on the outside looking in, it's gone. So who am I? And I didn't even realize how much of my foundation and my confidence had become rooted in my achievements, in my income, in my title, my rank, whatever you want to call it. And I think even while I was in it, there was a huge discomfort with recognizing that I was identifying so much there. And I recognized that there were a lot of relationships that they seemed like really good real relationships, but they were very much people rooted in I like the people who are important and they feel really special and I want to gravitate to that. And it didn't feel genuine and it felt really uncomfortable to me. And I love authenticity. It's so important to me to be authentic. I love other people's authenticity. And when you feel that, when that vibe is there, like you can't push it away. You can't force something that. So it was almost like in many ways where I was at was so uncomfortable, even though I had the money. The thing that I think that I would build differently now is that was kind of just one piece, like I factored in, I want to have this money so that I can have all these opportunities and all of this freedom and blah, blah, blah. Beautiful. I loved my vision. I had all the things that I said I wanted. I had the car I wanted. We went on the trips. It was beautiful. So it's not that I was miserably wealthy. It was just that there were pieces of it that were
That's a
kind of
great
lacking.
term.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are miserably wealthy.
Sorry to interrupt. That was so good. It wasn't
No.
miserably wealthy. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like we all just we know that person. Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
sweetie. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So I don't want to make it sound like I had everything I wanted and I hated it because I wasn't like completely unhappy, but there was definitely something missing. And I think that I'd so heavily focused on the professional piece of my life and what that was going to look like. And it wasn't that I was neglecting my kids and I didn't have relationships or anything like that. It was just I had so closely identified with the achievement that I wanted and the income I was striving to hit that I kind of lost me. I lost a little bit of the magic of who I was
Yeah.
that was consistent, you know, and I really didn't have vision for how all of those things are going to play in. I think it's really easy to get into the hustle and grind of building something, especially when it's working and you're seeing traction, to say like, okay, yeah, my physical health is suffering a little bit, but that's okay because as soon as I'm making XYZ, then I'm going to hire a personal trainer or then I'm going to do these things. And you kind of let that lax just a little bit at first, but then it's like, well, but I have to get through this or I have to get through this event or, you know,
It's such a
and
trap.
then it's such a trap. And then even with your family where you're just like, well, I'll just keep doing this. They'll understand, you know, it's not going to be that big of a deal. So there were like pieces of that where I just felt like I had this very unbalanced success in a way, but it was more so that when in the bio, it's like you build success on a house of sand essentially. You don't have the foundational piece of like, what's the big picture? Not just how much money do you want to make? How do you want to make that money? And not to be confused with having the perfect how, having the perfect plan that can never pivot or evolve. I just mean like when you think about showing up and having a business and being a mom and having all of these other things that you do as a whole person, what is the ideal way that's going to happen? Is that going to happen where it's very heavily weighted on, I need something so I can continue to be present as a mother, present in all of the other responsibilities I have? Or do I really want to have like a 50-50? And I'm totally fine showing up as a mom sometimes, but I really want to have this full thriving career. And so many people go into it not on purpose and they start building and then it kind of becomes something and they think, well, that's what success looks like. That's what I saw. So I'm obviously successful, and then you're like, where is this disconnect coming from? And it's, that was some version of success, but not my version of success. So there's a lot in there that I kind of touched on the identity piece of feeling like I didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't even sure what I wanted because I was equating, I wanted this, I got this, now I'm unhappy. I lost it all. So where do I start now? Like, what do I even do? Do I even want to have a business? Do I even want to have money again like this? And and it took like 4 years of, you know, initially the thing ends, like the whole debacle ends, but then it was not even realizing I was going to have trauma from this because it's a big deal
Of course. Oh,
to
sweet. Of
think,
course.
you know, you've broken this income generational curse, you've created new things, you're like, yeah, look at me. And then you kind of have this crushing, and to think you're going to just bounce right back, go start again was, I guess, a little bit naive for me. And so I had to go through that and I just could not seem to get myself out of it. And I've coached on mindset. I love mindset. I think there's so much power in shifting your thoughts and your stories, just as we've demonstrated here. But there was a missing piece. And it wasn't until about a year ago of connecting with an emotional intelligence coach that she was able to really explain to me, this is probably, I bet you're starting a lot of stuff. And right as you get to the point where you're going to launch it, or right as you get to the point where it starts to be successful, I bet you're sabotaging it. And I was like, yeah, how did you know that? And she said, because I think you're not afraid of failure. I think you're afraid of success, because success equated to danger before. Once you hit that, you were vulnerable. You could be hurt. So she's like, what happens in like your physical body when you're thinking about this? And I said, it's been years and I still will shake. I will still have like a PTSD reaction to this, visceral reaction. And it's because when we only process up here and we don't acknowledge what's happened physically, what's happened to our emotions, I was having like a danger response just posting on Instagram the same way you would when you see a bear in the woods. It was the same physical reaction. And so that had been the missing piece. And once I was able to work through that, and it was beautiful timing and also awful timing because you can see a picture of my dad and I right here. He just passed away last February unexpectedly. He was only 63.
My goodness.
No goodbyes. It was just like gone.
Oh,
And he died of a heart attack. And I met this coach right on the heels of that, where I had no business being out there like doing masterminds and stuff, but I did. I felt called to go. And the way that I was able to process that shock and grief compared to how I processed, which in my opinion is bigger than losing money. I'd rather lose money than lose a person 1,000 times over.
of
But
course.
to see the difference in how I was processing like a very traumatic night and all of these things ever since then was so amazing. And so that's why I even look back and I think, oh, it almost makes me sick wishing I could reprocess and go back and have the chance to do it again with the tools that I have now. And so when you asked, like, is it a failure? It's a lesson. It really was a lesson because I've still showed up. It's been beautiful and imperfect, but that was the missing piece that has helped me move over that to where I'm able to sit here with you. Couldn't have done this a few years ago. Like I could have faked my way through it, but it wouldn't have felt the way that it feels right now, where I'm just like, you know what? Bad things happened. I'm not shaking anymore. I can talk about it to an extent. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I sit right now, is recognizing it's not enough just to change our thoughts. We have to bring the body, the spirit, all of that along with it. And that is where huge things can happen.
It's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Again,
sciencey, right? Like it's not just the
yeah.
woo. It's like it's real. This is what's happening in our little brains. Like it's a complex mechanism that's there to protect us, but when we don't take care of it and don't understand what it's doing, it holds us back, and we're just sitting there having this like wrestling match with our own thoughts and our own bodies. It's exhausting.
It is. And so many people go through those cycles. And thank goodness you caught it within 4 years, right? As opposed to you could be in your 60s going,
Yeah.
why am I still self sabotaging? But like you said, and you're the kind of person, Kirsten, that does the work. And that's why Justin and Tara love you, because you show up and do the work. And that's why I'm falling in love with you today, too, because you are such a trailblazer. And it's not enough to just hear what we need to do. You're willing to get uncomfortable. You're willing to feel it in your body. You're willing to do the emotional intelligence work. And like you said, choose your hard. So if the hard work is just going inside, which is a scary place, and a lot of people don't want to go there, and that's where depression, anxiety, and addiction occur.
Mhm.
You're willing to do that, your life is going to show up for you. It will be revealed from the inside out.
Yeah.
So it's just only going to get more and more amazing from here.
Yeah. I'm so excited for that. It's when you're in the middle of the dark, you're in the middle of the transition or the growth. It is not fun, and some parts of it can be beautiful and healing and wonderful even in the hardship. Like the heartbreak can still be beautiful in its own way, and I didn't understand that until I experienced grief the way that I have, losing a parent, where it's like this is actually a sacred experience, and there's something wonderful about being cognizant of what's going on as you are going through these like crushing things that the blossoming is coming. But for the most part, I think all of us would agree that those are not the best seasons. They're not the ones that we're going to want to jump right back into and relive if we had the chance. But I think it is great to see we all want to be stronger. We all want to be better. We all want to be smarter. And then when you're in the middle of that becoming and the dues that you pay to gain that, it's not fun. But on the other end of that, you're like, okay, that's amazing. And yeah, if I had it to do over again, maybe I'd do a little bit differently, but I wouldn't take the whole experience away because I needed that. And I am
Mhm.
so much stronger for it. And I love that I can sit here and have conversations when I see women self-sabotaging or doing this. And I'm not speaking from theory and saying, oh, come on, just like work your way through it. I'm like, come on, if I can still show up 2 months after my dad died, if I can do these things, like I'm not being mean. I'm just saying, like, I know you have the capacity in there and I can speak from experience. And that was what I craved when I started 10 years ago, is to be able to have that authority. Or authority makes it sound like an ego thing, but
I
I've
understand.
always wanted to help people, and I think until you've needed help yourself and you've done the work, you're not fully going to be able to be empathetic as they're going through and doing the work. It's just going to feel very persecutorial. So now we can guide.
That's fair. And I always tell my clients, you don't have to be healed. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. If you are walking up the mountain, you just have to be a few steps ahead of someone in order to have them follow you up the mountain or to help them up. And you can
Yeah.
even help them up in front of you and you could become their student. But
Mhm.
just keep going and just be a couple steps ahead.
Yeah. I
Be a
love
couple
it.
steps ahead of your own shadow.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so comforting because I think it can feel really intimidating to think you have to be at this perfection level, or you have to be like super far down. And I look back and I think, man, if I had just shared a little more of this as I was going through it, instead of waiting until I felt like it was safe or perfect, I could have helped people even in the messy. It is what it is. And I probably did. I know that I kept showing up and sharing, just maybe
I
not
feel
to the
like you did.
degree now.
Well, and
Yeah.
when we anticipate that it's going to get better and we're trying to plug holes in a sinking ship that every time we plug one, two more sprout,
Yeah.
then of course we want to keep our cards close because we're like, I shouldn't tell everybody the ship is sinking because I'm actively trying to save it from sinking. I don't want
Yeah.
everybody to get scared. But we you honey, you did the best you could. And now you're here to tell the tale. And I think we needed to hear this. And there's a lot of people who have created and lost, or created and self-sabotaged, or started over. And I pulled a card while you were telling that story. And what came through is birthing a new age.
Hmm.
Okay. Birthing a new
Full.
age, this beautiful goddess standing in these sacred rocks under these stars, birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being.
Wow.
Right? Because it sounds like that wasn't the way that it was all set up, wasn't even the life you really wanted, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And your body gives us signals. I'll talk about this more on your show, but my body totally shut down when I was overstressed and putting everyone's outside expectations above my own self-validation. I got really sick, and like it won't let us move forward.
It's
Right?
so
We're
true.
divinely protected.
And our bodies are wise. Like they're carrying our spirits, and they are so wise. And I have a friend today who's just telling me, like, I have bronchitis. And I said, I never know the line between, like, did you pick up a germ from somebody, or is your body trying to tell you? And I lean towards the latter. Maybe your immune system was weaker to pick that up because you needed to recognize something that you are ignoring with your spirit or your brain. And I think there's so much power to that, of like recognizing the body's cues as giving you the wisdom that you need so that you can't ignore it for long. You're lucky that it's just sitting here today and we're able to bounce back. Sometimes people wait too long, like you said to me. You get into your 60s, 70s, you don't really bounce back as easily, and you can have your body pay the price for the things you didn't resolve for the decades that you could have. And I'm sad for the generations that haven't really had access to this, or that have just had to push through and trudge along. I'm grateful that we have it now and that there's a little more conversation around it now. I think we need to be careful not to ignore that, not to just say, like, well, we're fine, just push through, sleep when we're dead, you know? It's not what we're supposed to
Mm-mm.
do.
I am not into the hustle culture and like all
Mm-mm.
these reels about like hustle, hustle, like get hustle and grind. I'm like, no, I want to be like a fairy in the woods and just like do goddess work and have my show. Like, what are we hustling for?
What's
Like,
the
let's
matter
just
with that?
sounds amazing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Regarding like, did we pick up a germ, or did our bodies send a signal? Anytime our immune system, unless you're dealing with some chronic illness or whatnot, but if our immune system is weakened, it's because we're overstressed and our cortisol levels are high. So it's both, right?
Hmm.
It's always both. And
It's always both.
I used to manifest getting sick when I hated my job. And I met the greatest people, but I worked at Keller Williams, the real estate company, and they gave me a title called Director of Agent Services. And maybe that's still a title. And it was a fun job. I essentially just became like the office therapist, and I just made videos for everybody. But I felt like a bird trapped in a cage because I was going to an office every day away from my own home for 9 hours a day and doing helpful work to help these agents who are all wonderful, but completely ignoring my own purpose and my own past. That's why I hated, wasn't that job. That job was actually really pleasant. It was just hating a job. And so
Hmm.
over time, I started manifesting getting cysts on my ovaries, right? Because that second chakra was so blocked. I wasn't creating anything. And the cysts would burst, and I would have to be off for 2 days or go to the hospital. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it got to the point where when I was thinking about going to work, I would start to feel pain in my second chakra. And I'm like, maybe it's time to quit. and, and do your own thing, right? Get a
Yeah.
higher paying part-time job. So I was taking consulting jobs for production companies and doing more freelance video work and whatnot just to be creative. So big signals. If anyone's watching or listening and your body keeps flaring up because you're going against the grain of what it is you're meant to do, listen to what's going on inside. It's not
Hmm.
worth it.
No, it's not. 100% not. Isn't that crazy? It's funny how we ever think that this is not on purpose or that this is not connected, because I would always say every time I try to like start working out at the gym, I just get sick. So that's so weird. How ironic that every time I need to do this, like I fall ill. And
Uh-huh.
and I think that's slightly different than what you're saying too, but your body is telling you. I love that book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it's absolutely 100% true to be in tune with that. And the interesting thing too, when it comes to like one of the huge pillars when I do emotional intelligence work with people, because it encompasses a lot. I even think it's hard to define what is an emotional intelligence, or what is emotional intelligence. And it encompasses so many different pieces. But I think the primary thing that sets it apart from other practices is understanding the body's like alarm system, understanding your fight or flight responses, and knowing that when you don't honor those, like I was saying, if you don't honor them, they're going to stay there and they're going to lock in until you process it. And it doesn't have to be this like huge months long therapeutic session of having to revisit the moment. It's just literally allowing the physical body to process what it wasn't allowed to in that moment. So that is that is such a beautiful practice, and we are all different. Like we all have kind of our own little fingerprint in the way that we experience those things. But when we speak about the body keeping the score, it'll tell you, like you'll know physically what's going on when you feel stress, when you feel anxiety, when you have those triggering moments. And the antidote is the symptom. So like if you're feeling this need to like move your body and run away, if you just physically honor that, then it allows your body to be like, okay, we're safe, we're calm, and it brings that processing system back, it closes your mental lid and allows you to think logically again. Or for me, right after my dad died, I haven't really ever suffered a ton with anxiety, a little bit here and there, but where I would feel it is like almost like a fluttering in my stomach. Like I felt like I was nervous. I used to be a performer before photography. I was actually like a musical theater nerd and singer.
Amazing. I knew you were my
Yeah.
people.
We can sense each other.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And so it reminded me of like stage fright, just like before getting on stage where you're like, oh, okay, and kind of stop breathing intentionally and tension. And I was able to, even if I was driving in that hit, being able to bring intentional attention to my stomach and like tense up on purpose because it signals to your brain, oh, this isn't just happening. I'm aware this is happening, which means if I have the time to be thinking about it, the threat must not be real. Right? Like when you see a bear, you're not sitting there being like, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I call my mom? What should I do? No, you're like completely operating in automatic. And
GTFO.
so, exactly. There's no other thought process. Just go. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you physically or when you intentionally bring like the brain into it and you're aware of what is going on, as I was like intentionally tensing and breathing into that was automatically happening, it reminded my body, oh, she's in charge, we're good, like she's safe enough that she can be aware of this and think through this, breathe through this. And so that's like you'll unlock totally different levels of what you're capable of. And when we talk about anxiety, depression, those are real things, and they're not things that have to hold you down forever. Like a lot of that is unresolved, allowing these things to process through the body and just like staying in it and being buried by it. So I don't want to be insensitive, and it's kind of like I want to be careful the way I tread to not, discount anybody's lives or what they're going through. It's just
Yeah,
for me, it was so empowering to feel like I had all of this like depression from what I went through and this trauma.
of
And I've gone
course.
through a different hard thing. And the way that I've been able to come out of that, show up and create just because I understand what's happening and I could honor it and work with it. Like that's so valuable. I don't want to be limited by these things. I want to learn how to use them for good.
It's so valuable, and I appreciate your sensitivity. And the truth is that that's the reason there are art therapies and creative therapies and emotional intelligence coaching. And unfortunately, when people are dealing with severe depression and anxiety, it doesn't even occur to them to ask for help because they're so deep down in it. And until, like you said earlier, we get sick of the behavior pattern, right? We hit a catalyst for change. Then we
Hmm.
start seeking and exploring those options. And hopefully that occurs for someone while they're still safe to
Yeah.
do so. So,
Yep.
when we have moments of clarity, anyone who's listening or watching, if you're feeling depressed and anxious lately, like write yourself little reminders. I have so many post-its around just to remind myself of magic and brilliance and badassery. So when I have those low days, I know who to call, what book to read, go the hell outside, right? Like move my
Touch
body,
dirt.
like you said. Yes, yes. So going back to kind of our earlier conversation around what you're doing now and what occurred before that, it falling apart, you going through a healing process, and you just loving your life now in your abundance that you're calling in. Can you tell us just more about what you're creating and how it feels, and if there's any differences either emotionally or physically than when you first scaled?
Yeah. Well, and I'll answer, and my answer is the actual thing that I guide other women through, because like I said, until last year when I was introduced to some of these tools, I used them and I was like, I have to share this with other people. Like, this is the missing link. This is what I have been missing because I love coaching women. I love helping them level up and helping them see the next space that they can go and kind of overcome their own limitation. But I also wanted to make sure that I was using things that were like scientifically backed and they weren't going to hurt people more. Like, I'm very aware I didn't want to like project my experiences onto others and say, well, this is what's happening. Like, I wanted them to be able to self-guide. I wanted them to find what works for them. And so I use these tools for myself every single day. And my programs and my coaching offer the exact same strategies. But I'll tell you, like, some of the core things I mentioned, the emotional regulation is a huge piece, not just the professional vision, but personal, spiritual, physical, all of it's working together. So I'm not creating in these little vacuums of, okay, well, my business will look like this and I'll be this person over here. And then at home, I'll be this person. And in my spiritual life, I'll be this. And in my physical body, it's all the same person. And so it's that vision and what I really want, and not just the things and the outcomes, but like how I want to feel. So when you look back to my conversation with Tara, it was like, I knew how I wanted it to feel to have money. And now it's like, how do I want success to feel? What does that really, really, feel like throughout my body? And that really is what drives things more than just the thought process. And then identity, that piece is so important. And I think I understood a little bit before, but now I really understand it. And it's really claiming who you are, not just the roles and the titles, but at the end of the day, who is it that shows up, like I said, in all of those areas of my life? So for me, it's like having my power statement. I am an unshakable daughter of God. So like that's what I say. And if I'm running into hardships, if I can't make choices in my business, if I don't want to go to the gym, it's just like, well, what does an unshakable daughter of God do? Like, how does she show up? And so people tapping into who they really are, whether, whatever resonates with you and helps you to feel that connection, moves the needle so much further. And then just like shifting from this life is happening to me into I am creating my life, and knowing what to focus on and what to let go, having an action plan to build success on purpose. All of those things are what I have incorporated in. So it's not just this like, okay, I'll make a plan and I'll figure out what I'm going to do and then try it and, fall into this little pit of despair when it doesn't happen. Now I love having tools that help me through every single stage in any phase of my business and my life. And that's essentially what I help other women to do. Because I think in the middle of all that story, I also did a ton of marketing consulting. I built sales funnels for people, online quizzes. Like, I love human psychology, and that's very evident in the ways that I did my marketing. It was really, really fun. And I've observed after long enough of working with enough people that if we ignore this foundational piece, if we don't have the vision, we don't have the clarity, we don't know who we are, we're going to create businesses that we eventually either hate or sabotage. We're going to sabotage ourselves. So many of these things will happen, and they happen across the board every single day. And so that's, as much as I love everything else, and as much as I love talking about business strategy on Millionaire University, can't wait to have you on there. This is the stuff that really lights me up, because I think if I can help a woman figure out what she wants, who she is, and how to get there, doesn't matter. You could be doing 80 different things. Like, each woman who's listening to this could come in and it's going to look very different, but it's going to be very much the same tools. So it's so fun. I think you can tell how much I love it
I
just as I
can.
talk about it.
And just how committed you are to helping women navigate the emotional complexities of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yep. It's so necessary. We talked about divine feminine, and I think that we're seeing overall this shift into a more feminine approach to business in general, because I don't know about you, but we've stepped into this online space, felt very dominated by male energy. And we've kind of been like, there's not really anybody showing us how to do this and tap into our sensitivity and all of those things. And I love this shift. And I think we need more tools that help us honor who we are, show up the way that we want to, and take care of ourselves in the process, so that we don't build lives and businesses that we hate because we thought that's what success was supposed to be.
100%. Oh my goodness. And so you just said success. So how has your definition of success evolved through your journey?
Well, like it's so weird. You ever have those moments where you can remember where you were, you can remember all these things, and you're like, why did that stand out? Of all the memories I forget, just like in that Inside Out movie, it's like, roll the ball down into the pit. We don't need that one anymore. One thing that I remember is, even in the very beginning, sitting on my bed as I was starting my podcast, and I don't remember what I heard. It was probably someone else's book or podcast or something talking about success. And I was like, I've never really thought about the fact that success is not clearly defined by one person. It's very subjective. And so, ironically, you'd think after understanding that back then that I would have, it was kind of like my little cue that I maybe ignored to an extent. But now I'm like, oh, success is whatever I make success, like whatever I define as that. So whereas before it was kind of success is when I make $1 million, when I can prove to the world and prove to myself that anybody can start with zero and make $1 million. Now it's success is if I have a beautiful, thriving relationship with my husband, with my kids, and all of the things in my vision. If they're working harmoniously together, that is success for me. If I am healthy, if I am happy, if I love what I'm doing, not that every day is perfect, right? But like I know that I am creating this on purpose and that all these pieces are working together to create a beautiful life that I really did choose on purpose. And bad things can still happen, bad days can still happen, but success is like knowing who I am and showing up consistently as that woman every single day and carving out that life that brings all the people I love in with it and brings my best self into it.
Beautiful. I love that answer. It's just peace and harmony,
Mm.
right? It's just everything that you want. Well, I want to amplify your vision and what it is you're building and take you back to a time when you asked Tara, because I'm going to ask you, Kirsten, what does it feel like to be a millionaire?
Oh my gosh, there is so much freedom. And I don't just mean freedom because you can pay the bills and you have all of that taken care of. And I would honestly say I had those moments that Tara told me about for her. And I was like, oh, it's happening. Like, here I am. I'm buying the dress and I didn't check the price tag, or, oh, I can order what I want at the restaurant. But I think being a millionaire to me is more than just the amount of money in the bank account. And it goes back to what I just said about success, even, right? Like, true wealth is you're able to make decisions differently for your life when it's not having to be rooted in the cost, it's not rooted in the financial limitation. And there's something about obsessing over money that happens when you don't have it and not having to obsess over that anymore and being able to put all that passion and energy into life, into people, into alignment with who you are here to be and the impact you're meant to make in this world. Like that is what to me what it feels like to be a millionaire. It feels like complete freedom to be who I am, show up, build an incredible life, pour into others because I'm able to forget myself a little more. Not forget self-care, but I'm able to forget myself so that I can show up and just be that connector to God or whatever it may be for you. That's what it feels like for me to be a millionaire.
Beautiful. That's going to help so many people step into that vision.
Yeah, I hope so. It's yours. You can claim it and you don't have to do it the way I did it and then figure it out. Like, hopefully, you've learned something from this. It really can be tricky to step away from like, oh, the control and the strategy into this more energetic approach, but they do work in harmony together more than you think. And once you embrace that, then your strategy shifts and you can have both.
And have it all, darling.
Yep. A
Well,
million percent.
oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to have one more question for you. But before I do, I just want everyone to absolutely check out millionaireuniversity.com/training. All the links will be in the description below. And I'm also curious if you could tell us a little bit more about your group coaching program at kirstentyrell.com for women who need help just navigating those emotional layers of entrepreneurship and family life like you've done.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything I said, and there's something for everyone. Like whether you're kind of just starting out, you can't afford a ton of one-on-one coaching with me, there's a membership. Like we're working to create a community where everybody has access to these tools, everybody has access to growth, all the way up to like I'm ready to have some really vulnerable conversations. I'm done dealing with my stuff. I want a great coach who's going to help me go to that next level quicker. We've got offers for you. And again, you can find all of that on the website. Also follow along on Instagram and TikTok. Those are the primary platforms I create on. And it's just Kirsten Tyrell on all of them. And I'm working on some stuff now. Probably by the time this airs, we'll have a quiz that you can take that helps you find the thing that's keeping you stuck. Cause my background in quiz marketing, love it so much. So yeah, check all of that out. It should all be somewhere in the feed, somewhere on the site. And I would love to connect with you and help you level up.
Incredible. What a blessing that would be for anyone who chooses to go that path with you. All right, love. Last question for you. In the United States, the lottery has gotten to $1 billion, sometimes $2 billion. It's bananas. So let's say whether or not you gamble, maybe I've gifted you a ticket, you win. And after taxes, maybe 600, $700 million has now fallen into your lap. Really, two questions. What do you do when you find out you won? Like, what's the first thing you do? And then now that money is not something you'll ever have to really think about again, because when you have that amount of wealth and you invest it properly, you can just live off the interest.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do more with your time?
This is going to maybe be a weird answer.
So
But what
first
I
thing,
love, yeah, what I love about this is I will tell you the first thing, because I would do this right now anyway. Not a lot would change. And I think that's huge, right? But
yep,
I would definitely book first class flights to Hawaii, or maybe a private jet to Hawaii. It's my happy place. I love it. It just lights me up. It's my favorite place to be. And stay in a beautiful resort, bring my whole family along with me. That's probably the first thing that I would do after, jumping up and down, being excited about it. Because I don't care how much money you have, who wouldn't be happy about having $600 million in the bank?
yep,
It's just
yep.
generational wealth, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't have to work again, I think that brings back to what I've been saying. Not a whole lot would change, because I'm doing the thing that I would be doing even if it wasn't generating income right now. Like, I very much have created life on purpose. So maybe I would spend even more time pouring into more things, more people, and just probably facilitate having that unlimited financial supply to be able to build out more I don't know, more structure to be able to help more people and gain access to the things that I do in a mass level. So I think
Wow.
that's really all that would change, and just creating beautiful sustainability for my family forever.
How beautiful, right? There's just so much you can do to give back when you have that. So I have a feeling you would be starting a 501c3 at some point, just based on what you just said.
Yep.
So, or
Absolutely.
partnering with one so you don't have to do all the work.
Yes,
Hmm.
that.
Yes. All right, love. Well, again, all the links will be below for everybody to get in touch with you. This has been such an awesome opportunity to have us connect and to have your wisdom on this show. I can't wait. I want to air it sooner than we'd even talked about. So I got to get on your calendar
Let's make it
and make this
happen.
happen.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like we're going to do more together too. You're such a badass.
I love it. I hope so. That's always like my favorite thing, is connecting. These are my top ways to make friendships, build connections. So I love it. It's always like a nice, pleasant surprise, and you're like, I would be your friend off the air. Like, let's continue this
Right.
conversation. Yeah.
Right. Where do
Doesn't
you
happen
live? What
every
city?
time.
Yeah. Are you still in San Clemente?
No, I'm in southern Utah now, so I'm in the desert, not by the ocean anymore. But yeah, where are you at?
I'm in Nashville.
That's where we lived right before this. Oh
Oh,
my gosh.
babe, we missed each other.
Oh, I know. I was in Franklin, and we're all the time talking about wanting to go back. So I don't know, maybe we will.
Okay, come back. There's a
I
space
will.
here.
I will
Yep.
happily join you.